セガサターンシロ
What's up, Dan? I don't know.
Hey.
My computer's having trouble this.
Oh.
I don't know why, but yeah, it's like the glitching the audio and stuff like that. Who knows? I just did a Windows update.
You sound okay right now. Well, anyway, welcome into the SHIRO show.
I'm talking
everyone.
about the stream.
Hi, everybody.
Like the people can hear the music and it's like all glitching out. I don't know what it is.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway, shouts to Dragons of Saturn for being first. He beat Wiener Bob. Like usually,
nice.
It must be like it's now a competition between those two, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway,
that's impressive. He beat Wiener Bob this time.
I know, right? He got here early, and
yeah.
Tales of Saturn as well. So yeah, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us. If you guys don't know, Pat's not here. Obviously, he's Dan. Yep. Dan looks a lot like Pat this week because Pat. He went on a trip. And so it's just me and Dan. But
yeah, I just keep switching seats. I just bounce all over the place. I don't really have my own seat
musical
anymore.
Chairs.
I'm in all of them. Yeah, it is musical.
Honestly,
chairs.
We should put Pat in the middle. We should keep you. Well, no, wait a second.
Pat in the middle? Why Pat?
Because he's small and you're so tall,
he's
or you
small.
look so tall in the middle. Yeah, and he's short.
So I like frame.
Yeah,
frame
like
up.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but actually, no, you have to be in the middle because you have the headset. He's got the mic coming in from the side, so it would just be kind of like coming in from like thin air or whatever. I don't know.
Well, it's a good thing I've never gotten a microphone, or else that would make this real tough.
Then all of a sudden it would be like, whoa, where's Dan's microphone coming from?
Yeah, we can just have it coming from like above. It'll be coming from the top of the frame.
Yeah,
it'd be great. But anyway, hi to everybody in chat. Thanks for being here at the beginning of the show.
Yeah,
another
I'll read them off real quick.
Packed show.
Art Daily, Christian Marte, Analog Black Sheep is here, Chapel, Stone Man, Scully ETC, Captain Hodden, Stuart Stapleton, we got Paul Bort, Pudgy Bunny, Tom Fum is here, all the way from the UK, J-Rock, 424, Dragons of Saturn, I think I said that already, Raiden, David Zaney, Stuart Stapleton, Slow Coin, Chris Housen, who else is here? We got Memphis is here. How's it going, Memphis? Christian Marte, oh, I said that already. Andy Mackey's here. Shadow Mask, of course, our beloved mod. And, Sudden Second Gentleman is here. Sam's here. Shout Sam.
Did you say Pudgy Bunny?
I said Pudgy Bunny. Thanks, Pudgy, for the production value on Dan. We got Bo. Bo is here. He's got a new, is that still Bo Bales? Because it's different screen name than I'm used to seeing. I don't know. But,
I think so. It's the same avatar that he uses on Twitter, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Cerulean, Gordostein, and that about sums it up for right now. We got like 31 people in chat. Please give us a thumbs up and help share out the stream if you can. Rab Mac, how's it going? Welcome to the party.
Your voice is getting a little muffled, little robo-ish.
Robo Dave to the rescue.
Yeah, Robo Dave is here again. Mine doesn't do that. The iPhone just works, I guess. That's what iPhones do.
Oh. Okay, is it better now?
All right, yeah, you sound much better. Now there's there was a thing over my face, but it's gone
there was
now.
a thing. It was my computer.
I couldn't see anything. Just a Windows thing over my face.
Magic.
Anyway.
Yeah, that was okay.
So what's new with you, Dave?
What is new with me?
Yeah.
Let's see here. What is new with me? I've been sick and I've been trying to get better, but it's been rough. I did a stream last weekend, streamed some of the game that we're doing a community challenge. It's very hard. I'm not very good at pinball games.
Oh yeah, the pinball, yeah.
I admit that it's freaking amazing. Like I love the Last Gladiators and Necronomicon games. The digital pinball on Saturn is phenomenal. Even an idiot like me can acknowledge that. Like even if I'm not good at it, it feels amazing, and I'm like, wow, this game is a lot of fun to play. I just haven't figured out how to game the system like everybody else. But yeah,
not everybody else, because I'm not doing very well with it either.
You're not doing okay. Well, hey, high five.
I turned in some times, and Air 5. Air 5. I turned in some times, and they were not even like close to a billion. And there's people on leaderboards that are rocking 2-3 billion. Let's see. So right now we've got Private Eye still in the lead in all 4 of the main categories.
Yeah, he's
for
doing
the main Last Gladiators 9.7 game. He is. He's got, like I said, almost 3 million on the Knights of the Roses table. That's crazy. But I mean, there are people kind of nipping at his heels, like on the Dragon Showdown table. Dirty Chancer,
Dirty Chancer, yeah.
Dirty Chancer is like just $500,000 behind, or $500 million behind Private Eye.
$500
so
million. That's
maybe
where
if he
we're
works
at
on
with
that.
this. Like I was in the millions.
Yeah.
These folks are in the billions. It's ridiculous. And I have to say, I've noticed it really does come down to time. It comes down to how much time can you invest.
Grind it.
Because those folks who have invested the time, they learn the table and they know exactly what spots they got to hit. And they know what things to watch for. And every table is different, so you kind of have to learn each table. I have not had the kind of time to pour into this challenge like I did with the Sega Touring Car, and it really shows. Like, because I got a lot of other stuff going on. Namely Persona 5 Royal. Like I'm almost done. I really am almost done.
Almost.
But I mean, I beat the vanilla campaign. Like I beat the game proper. And now I'm in kind of like the aftermath, where they added extra characters and a new palace and a bunch of other stuff. And I'm really enjoying it, but I'm really wanting to put that to bed because I'm
ready to move on.
I'm over 150 hours into the campaign, and it's a slog. But it's been a fun one. I mean, like I absolutely love it. But yeah, it's been fun. I did have a pickup though.
Oh. What you got?
I picked up these right here. It is a HSS 0148 and an HSS 0127. These are both Japanese X-band modems.
Yeah, look kind of familiar.
One is the Virtua Fighter Remix pack. I think that's kind of like the later pack that has Pad Nifty. It's got all those 3 games in it. Pad Nifty, what is it? Virtua Fighter Remix, and then that internet browser.
Isn't that the launch pack for the X-band? Isn't that what it launched with?
I don't think so, because the model number is a later model number, HSS 0148.
Oh, what's the other one having it?
HSS 0127. And the other one right here just has like a kind of like a different kind of sticker on the front, and it just has Remix and the internet browser, no Pad Nifty.
Really?
Or maybe the other way around. But anyway, it has less in it in terms of what it has. But these are not going to stay with me. As much as I would love to have one of these for my collection, because I don't actually own a Japanese modem, but I don't really need it. Folks in the community do. And then, Pat and I picked these up for a fair bargain. I think they were like $34 each or something like that, because we got them.
That's not too bad.
Right. So we'll be like basically putting these together with a live modem and hopefully a patch from Moose and passing them on to some folks in the community at cost, so that they can join our NetLink ranks. Because it's the more fun, the bigger the party, the merrier, basically. So, cool. So I'm hoping reach out to me if you are a SHIRO supporter. You're already a SHIRO supporter, and you've been a SHIRO supporter. Reach out to me if you're wanting to join our NetLink League and get your Saturn online. I mean, if nobody reaches out to me, then I may just put out a PSA and
open it up.
Yeah, open it up. But I really would like to, for anybody who's already been supporting us and hasn't, I would love to get them online and have them be a part of the stuff we're doing. That said, when it comes to offline, what's been going on, you can talk more about where we are at with the community challenge, the monthly community challenge.
Sure, yeah. And by the way, in chat, Mr. Fredrickson, Dragons of Saturn, said it's all about multi-balls, extra balls, and then ramps with the pinball games. Yeah, I was playing. I played 2 of the tables. Warlock and Dragon Showdown so far, and I liked the theme of Dragon Showdown. I guess a little more because it's very sort of you've got a shinobi or something that keeps popping up on screen. It's pretty cool. But man, I was worse at it than Warlock. I felt like I was doing better with Warlock, and it's I just had the feel for it that I could just keep hitting those ramps. I know what you're talking about, Dragons of Saturn. It's almost like you have to kind of engage in the monotony of just hitting a ramp over and over, because it keeps giving you more bonuses the more you do that.
Right.
So it's almost I guess you could say it's analogous to a NASCAR race, where it's it's maybe a little monotonous. You're sort of doing the same thing over and over, but it's it's a grind. and
have you looked at
to be successful.
Have you looked at the manual by any chance of any of the individual? I noticed the game itself comes with a manual on screen, you know, like in the options.
Yeah, it does.
And then there's also and then there's also the physical manual. And I believe Double Dime has gone ahead and like machine translated some of the board manuals. I noticed that there are a lot of spots. I noticed there are a lot of spots on the board that you could potentially hit. And it's like knowing which ones to do in what order to maximize your score seems like how to game the system, really. But I'm like you. I cannot. I don't have the time to memorize every board, so I ended up kind of just doing this let's try to stay alive method. Yeah, my method is just stay alive and don't drain, right? You know, so, and like let's just see where the score goes from here. But I mean, that's gonna take forever. You know, the folks who are scoring in the billions are like they know exactly what they're doing, and they know what shots they're trying to hit. Whereas me, I'm just like trying, like I say, not trying to, don't let the ball drain, basically, is what Slowcoin said. But the new meta that I've noticed is folks figured out that the 3D control pad allows you to use nudge with more, what is it, like sensitivity?
Like you can use the stick, is that it? You can use the analog stick to like nudge the ball. Either way, see, I didn't know that until somebody mentioned it in chat like just a couple days ago, and I'm like, holy crap, that's a game changer. Like that's a massive competitive advantage to be able to do it, because I've been playing it with just a D-pad. I didn't think the game really cared. Like, why would you need, you know, the 3D controller for a pinball game? But it's like, wow, like I'm gonna need to try that now.
I think that might have been privatized secret, because now that the cat's out of the bag, Slowcoin says it's amazing, and so I think it's a game changer in terms of like, you know, at least taking you another billion points or something like that. But yeah, he says you can basically tilt in any direction with more force. Is it just in my head when the ball goes up and it bounces around the little bumpers, you know, the rubber bumpers up at the top, when you nudge the board when it's around there, it causes the ball to like to basically smack around there for longer and rack up your points? Or is that
probably. I haven't tried it. I've really only used like tilts to try to save me from certain death, and then the timing on die anyway.
The timing on that has to be pretty precise, you know. Like I try using tilt to or nudge or whatever to save me from draining down the middle, but it only works for me like 25% of the time. But I will try. I will make you a deal. We'll both try again on this game, at least before the end of the month. I won't stream it this time.
Definitely. I wanted to enter scores into at least like all 4 tables, and I've only done that for 2 of them. And I kind of want to try those 2 again, because now, you know, with the secret of like nudging things with the stick, that might make things a lot better. And maybe I'll even get on one of the weekly challenges, which we just finished our first weekly challenge in the other pinball game, Necronomicon. That was the Arkham table, and we had 13 different people input scores for that. The top score for that was Dirty Chancer with 5.4 billion points. So congrats, Dirty Chancer, on winning that weekly challenge. And right now, Dirty Chancer is also in the lead on the current weekly challenge in Necronomicon, which is the Cult of the Bloody Tongue table. What a name. And he's got 2.27 billion points. Just ahead of
Stapleton. Stuart Stapleton is Dirty Chancer. So that's cool.
Okay. Stuart Stapleton. Cool. Well, congrats on doing so well on those so far, Stuart. And then right behind him is the Notorious VDP with 2.25 billion points on the Cult of the Bloody Tongue table.
That name, by the way, Notorious VDP.
It is. It's really good. So yeah, everybody get your scores in for Cult of the Bloody Tongue. I might have to pop it in and give it a shot myself. I think we have until the end of May 21st on that. So that's this Tuesday evening.
Yeah.
So
I finished the patches for this one, at least the design, and it seemed to be received fairly well. So we're not going with the patches that look like the Third Reich flag or whatever.
Oh man,
I don't know what they were thinking with that design. I mean, maybe they just weren't thinking at all. But yeah, maybe. They were like, I'm inspired by this. It looks it reminds me of something very iconic. No.
Yeah.
In all the bad
I don't
ways.
know. I don't know if it has something to do with the fact that Japan was allied with Germany in World War II.
You have to wonder.
And there was somebody on the dev team was a fan of that. I have no idea.
But we don't know that.
The logo,
you don't know that, right?
We have no idea.
Speculating, But I mean, for folks who don't know, the Third Reich, you had the eagle with the I don't know, the swastika underneath it, and this you have
with a circle around it.
Right. This you have a vulture, and it has like what, I don't know, a circle with the logo, and it looks very reminiscent of the Third Reich.
Yeah. Well, it's deep. The logo is DP for digital pinball,
right?
But they kind of have it like a very squared off letters and then angles, so it kind of looks like a swastika.
Oh,
it's like, oh my God.
I didn't even.
Did you notice?
I did not even notice that connection. Make that connection.
I think that it kind of looks like that. So I don't know why. Because there's nothing in the game that's kind of like that. Like there's no reason for it.
Anyway, we want to avoid that any kind of even perception of similarity there. So yeah, we got the patches. We went with the hand with the ball. The Pat's gonna have a field day with that. But anyway, yeah. So it's that.
I'm in Pat's seat. So should I make a comment?
You are in Pat's seat. You can make as many sexual innuendos as you want.
Okay.
It's just
awesome.
Yeah, it'll hit different coming from you, Dan.
Dave's, will it? Okay, sorry.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe try. We'll see.
So tell me more about your patches with balls in hands, Dave. We all want to hear more about that.
The ball master, whoever wins this.
See, you can't just have like dead silence after I make my joke, man.
I did. No, whoever wins this championship will have to reconcile themselves with the fact that they are now the ball master. Anyway.
Yeah, they sure are. They sure will be the ball master. And right now, Private Eye is in the lead for head ball master.
The spirit of Pat is in this room. Ball sack. I want to be the ball. Ooh, Pudgy says she wants to be the ball master. Okay. Yeah. Where is Pat right now? He's on a trip. So he's taking a trip,
like a work trip. I
think. Yeah. So we're all missing him, really. And it just goes to show you when he's not. So when he's here, I don't need to do anything, But when he's not here, it's like almost like we have to fill the air. So yeah, that's the community challenge. Folks, join you. Don't
going well.
Unlike the
we're at almost 100 submissions. I guess.
And anybody can join. Anyone can join. You can join at the 11th hour if you want. I think with the Sega Touring Car Championship, we had somebody come in the last week and start cleaning up. So because they heard about it late, and then they came in and they were doing really well. I don't remember who that was, but I mean the point is, if you've missed it up till this point, it's mid-month now. You still got half a month to go. With the online tournament, the bracket is closed off, so it's pretty much whoever. I lost to Dan. That's another thing that happened. Is
not me, Dan, but Dan Retrospect.
There's so many Dans. There's Dan the Mega Driver, Dan Thrax,
few of us,
Dan Retrospect. Yeah, no, I was paired up with Dan Retrospectors. We had a rough time just getting our match scheduled, and then yesterday I had like a short block of time. I was just like, let's knock this out. We connected, and it was terrible connection. This is a great anecdote, though, for folks. Our connection was absolute trash, and we played around, and Dan won, and I was like, do you want to just count? Do you want that to be it? That's fine with me. I don't care, like one way or another.
So like doing best of 3?
Yeah, we did like a 2 out of 3, and it was so bad we just wanted to call it quits. And he's like, why don't we just reconnect one more time and see what happens? We reconnected, and it was fast. In fact, it was so fast.
Really?
Yeah, it was so fast I couldn't even keep up with it. Like it was so like lightning fast, night and day different than how we first connected. So if at first you don't succeed, try again with the NetLink stuff. If you get a bad connection, I would say anecdotally at least that it's worthwhile shutting everything down and rebooting on both sides and see if you get a faster connection, because we were surprised that happened. And I went on to beat him for a best 2 out of 3, and then we decided to do one more best 2 out of 3, and he beat me, and so that was it. So he's
congrats to other Dan.
Yeah, congrats to Retrospectors, and I guess I'm gonna be matched up against Blue Moon here over the weekend in the losers bracket. So we'll see.
Good luck.
I told him. I said, it's funny, like, winning one of these things is like, it's nice you won, but now you have to schedule another tournament. I'm like, at least if I lose, then it's like one less thing I have to worry about.
Yeah.
But I'm only saying that as a busy dad. I'm sure like for folks who like don't have kids, it's probably.
Oh yeah, I want to win. I'll tell you what right now.
For me, winning is loaded. Winning is loaded though. For me, I'm like, okay, if I do win, I'm on the hook until this thing is over. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm supposed to play my next matchup tomorrow, which I think is against Hawk Zero.
Yeah.
So tomorrow afternoon. So
Hawk
it should be
is
good.
I think Hawk is Midwest, right?
Yeah, I think Minnesota.
Okay,
so it should be a good connection, hopefully. Because I've played against other Minnesota players, and it's been fine.
Hopefully your pipes, your routing or whatever, the internet is good between you and him.
I think from here to San Diego, it's just the internet's not set up well to talk to us, because even when I was just trying to connect to like a speedtest.net server in San Diego, the ping was still terrible.
You did a trace route. Well, I'll tell you what, if you and I ever end up playing again, question, are you still using the netbook, or are you using that faster computer?
No, we haven't. We've just kept Bunny's PC downstairs, so we're using that.
I would be interested to play you via that PC. And see if, because last time we connected and we just said, oh, okay, it sucks, right? But I mean, literally, the connection I had with Dan, Retrospectors, was worse than what I had with you. No lie. So,
wow. I don't know how that's possible.
And then we reconnected.
It was bad.
It was bad. It was really bad.
Wow.
It was like you had to like slam on the buttons like multiple times just to register one hit, or launch one bubble. But anyway, so it's worth trying to connect again. So if we ever do, if we get a bad connection, I'll say, well, let's try rebooting and try it again, because you never know. But yeah, so anything else, in terms of updates before we get right on into the news?
I don't think so. You know what? No, my only pickups were rolling gotchas in PSO2 New Genesis.
Okay.
Although it's because they just started a collaboration with Atelier Ryza and Atelier Marie, and I couldn't not drop some cash on that. Although I technically didn't spend real money. I converted Bing points into Microsoft Space Bucks and used those to buy ARX cash and use that to get to roll the gotcha in PSO2. So yeah, Microsoft bought me some Atelier Ryza items in PSO2.
Take it. Microsoft. Why not?
Yeah, but it was cool. I got some good stuff. I got one of Ryza's outfits that was kind of like an alternate color. I got a couple different variants of Marie's outfits. Of course, Atelier Marie is the very first Atelier game, and it was actually on the Sega Saturn, which is cool. So I did really want some of that. And I got one of the songs from Atelier Ryza 3. So that was nice, because the soundtrack to that game, I love it. I was actually listening to it earlier today on Spotify while I was working. I love that soundtrack so much. It's really good. And I got some other stuff that I'll probably just sell in the player shop for Maseda, and then use that to buy some of the stuff that I wanted that I didn't get in my rolls. There's backgrounds. You can have in-game player IDs, and you can put your character against a background. And there are different backgrounds you can get. And they release backgrounds for Ryza 3 and Atelier Marie. And one of the backgrounds for Marie is it looks like the cover of the Saturn game. It's where she's kind of looking off to the side, and it's a kind of a light brown background.
Right.
It was. I thought that was really cool that they put it in there, and it was actually going for not much money in the player shop, probably because not many people have played or know about Atelier Marie. So all her stuff is cheaper on there. So yeah, I definitely picked that up. I made that my player ID. So,
all right,
I'm going to.
Wiener Bob's got a question for you, Dan. A budget or buttery question. Now, this is the same as last time. This budget or buttery. Would you consider unplugging Player 2's controller mid-game to be budget or buttery?
And thank you for the $4.99.
Yeah, thank you for the $5
super chat. By the way, would I consider unplugging Player 2's controller to be budget or buttery? I still am unsure of what those two things mean in context when comparing them to each other, but I'm going to go with budget, because that seems like the worst thing, and buttery would be like a smooth thing. Yeah, sure. That's Bush League. You can't be just unplugging Player 2's controller like that.
Yeah,
that's not cool.
Exactly. It's a low
so we'll
move.
Go with budget.
It's a low move, but I mean,
it is a low move. Dragons of Saturn.
It is a valid 90s gaming tactic, I will say.
I don't know if it's a valid tactic, but it is a tactic.
It does get results.
It gets results in getting you punched in the face, probably.
I mean, sure. But I mean, you could pretend to just kind of kick it out. It's right there with giving your little brother the worst controller, or the friend, the random friend who comes over to your house.
Controller.
You give them the Mad Catz controller that's just falling apart. Yeah, so
Jeez.
Budget or buttery? I'm not familiar with that. Is that the new meme?
Maybe it's something the kids say. I don't know.
Kids say.
I'm too old to know what the kids say now.
That's sad.
All right. Well, we can get into the news. We don't have a whole lot this week, partially because I was working on a story about the latest updates to the Saturn core and the Mister, and I didn't have time. I ran out of time. This is a really busy week for me at work. Understood. This is like my busiest week of the year. So yeah, I didn't have time, but I'll try to get up for tomorrow or Monday.
This week is the busiest week of the year. What's happening?
Oh yeah, so I put together pages for a newspaper, right?
Right.
And they're pages that are specifically kind of oriented toward in the advertising department.
Okay.
So they're not for the newsroom. I used to work in the newsroom years ago, and I work in the advertising department now. But so we put out these special sections. They're like tabloid shaped special sections, almost weekly. And usually they're like themed for something like home and garden or, gift giving when it's getting to be around Christmas time or whatever.
Okay. So
we did have a Mother's Day one last week. So this week was actually academic excellence, where we highlight the top 5 or so students from all of the high schools in our area. And there are 25 of those schools. So that's 125 kids. And I have to contact all these schools' guidance counselors, get the graduation information because we print that too from all of them, and then get them to have their students fill out a biographical form to send to us and send me photos of them so we can print their bios and their photos. So I have to wrangle 25 guidance counselors and 125 teenagers who all are thinking about anything but doing any of this.
Yeah.
And I have to do it by a deadline.
That's a big ask.
And then paginate it all onto a huge tab and proofread all their copy so that it reads well and is consistent. It's a huge project. I worked, I don't know, almost 30 hours in about a span of 48 hours.
If only you could be getting paid to write about Sega Saturn, right?
Yeah, that would be nice.
That would be
that would be nice. Well, yeah. So anyway, I got through that, and I was pretty tired after that.
I imagine. Yeah.
That's my one huge yearly project. All the other ones pale in comparison.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and bring up the browser here, and we can scroll down to, what is it? We talked about that. So for Virtua Fighter 2
the vinyl soundtrack. Yeah, I did write this over the weekend for a Monday, so I could at least have one story up this week from me before everything got crazy for me. So vinyl records of the arcade and Saturn soundtracks for Virtua Fighter 2 are available for pre-order now, according to the production company that's making them. Chicago-based record label Cartridge Thunder said on its product page that it expects to ship the $46 US soundtrack this August. Let me check to make sure they're still up for pre-order now. Yeah, they are. Okay, I don't think they really have a limit to the pre-orders. I don't think they have stock limits, which is nice. So you can just keep pre-ordering them probably right up until they come out. So go ahead and head there now. We also have a link on our website on the store on my story for it. The product page says that there are newly written liner notes by Takayuki Nakamura, who composed the music for Virtua Fighter 1, 2, and 3, and that's going to be included with the vinyl. The product page says that Nakamura-san has provided a rich history of Sega sound production and an inside look at the music of Virtua Fighter 1 and 2, the page says. The release includes 3 total records to include the entirety of the arcade and Saturn version soundtracks. That's 2 LPs as well as a 7-inch disc. I guess they had just a couple of songs left over to get the full soundtrack, so they didn't need a third full album. They just made one little bonus. Which is kind of funny, but sure.
Yeah.
They said, as we were keen to include all the music produced for Virtua Fighter 2, 2 of the game's themes, Jackie and Sarah, are presented on an included 7-inch record. So, there you go. So that's what makes it a 3-disc soundtrack, technically.
Right.
All of them have been newly remastered by Justin Perkins, an audio engineer with more than 20 years of experience working with artists like Shania Twain, Busta Rhymes, and Asia, among many others. He had a pretty impressive
some variety there.
Resume website. Yeah, he said on Twitter, this was a fun one to master. He did kind of make a little comment. He owned up to remastering this. So that's cool. Yeah, it wasn't just a case of just taking, lossy audio and throwing it onto a disc, just pressing onto a disc. They actually had someone like professionally remaster it so that it will sound good on vinyl. Unlike certain other companies that produce video game soundtracks on vinyl.
Oh, like the Ninja Turtles one? Like I'm throwing them under the bus.
The Ninja Turtles one, yes.
Like from what I understand, that, and I haven't heard it obviously, but I mean, I'm definitely not going to buy it now. Like after everybody tell, like I'll just that's
somebody showed the waveforms, and the waveforms were exactly the same as the ones you get on like the lossy digital version. Like, holy cow, what's the point of getting on vinyl?
Yeah. I mean, I would argue, what is the point of getting chiptunes on vinyl anyway, right? Because it's a digital. It was digital to begin with, right? But,
I guess. Well, I mean,
yes,
it still is like a fun collectible. Like, okay, I got the original Shantae, like for Game Boy. I got that soundtrack on vinyl, and I mean, I like collecting Shantae stuff. So, and I mean, I have a really nice speakers hooked up to our vinyl turntable, so it's like, it's kind of cool to like hear the chip tunes.
You got to sing "Heat of the Moment" for Moose.
Heat of the moment. That's all I know. Sorry. Why do I need to sing that?
Because Moose was like, "Where's Pat?"
Because of Asia.
To sing it, because of Asia.
Yeah, he would have.
But yeah,
there you go.
No, yeah, Pat. But I mean, like when it comes to me and vinyl, like, and I'm not elitist about this. Is just my own thing. Is like I have video game vinyl soundtracks from like Shenmue and Knights and stuff that's like orchestral or like multi-instrumental, but like when it comes to chiptune stuff, I almost would rather like buy it on mini disc, honestly, like a special mini disc release, or get like one of those cartridges. Sometimes they'll release like a Genesis soundtrack on a cart, and you can slap the cart in and play it like on the Genesis sound chip, which is kind of cool. I get folks like to have a reason to collect more vinyl.
So,
honestly.
how do you feel about these Virtua Fighter releases? Because I mean, this isn't technically chiptune, like it's not just like coming out of a Genesis.
So wait, the original Virtua Fighter, I would have to go back and listen, because I think the original Virtua Fighter soundtrack, the Virtua Fighter 1, was Redbook Audio, and it was immaculate. It was amazing. And now Virtua Fighter 2. I seem to feel like, much like Panzer Dragoon, like the original Panzer Dragoon was orchestral, it was Redbook Audio, and then Panzer Dragoon 2, Zwei, which I love, it was a chiptune soundtrack. It was using the Saturn's Yamaha chip. Yeah, and so I don't know, like I mean, it's still samples, there's still like, it's still like a sample library, and
it certainly has more depth to it. The Saturn chip than
I just find it like, like I love the NES Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles soundtrack, the arcade game on the NES, like that soundtrack is burned into my brain, and I love that soundtrack. But I don't know that I would want to listen to it on vinyl, because I just don't know what the point is. It's a digital. Okay. It was always digital. It was always square waves and like I just don't understand the point of putting it on an analog format. But I understand that folks love to collect vinyl, and it is purely subjective. So I don't, I don't have any problem with anybody wanting to. I just wouldn't personally, because it's vinyl's expensive enough as it is. So I need a really good reason to get it.
Yeah, and I mean, this one is pricing $46. Part of that is because they're putting out on 3 discs.
Yeah. TMNT is, for NES, is one of the hardest games I've still ever beaten. Dragons of Saturn says, you know what? It's funny. He's totally right. It is a brutal game. And when me and my brother were little kids, we had a lot of time to just kind of like keep dying and start over. Right. But recently, fun little memory that I had was, I don't know, a few weeks ago, my wife took Jesse to the East Coast to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and it was just me and Junie, my 5-year-old daughter, right? And we played through the NES version of Ninja Turtles on the Switch, using we played through the believe it was the Cowabunga collection, or was it actually the Switch shop? I don't remember which version it was, but either way, it had the option for making the difficulty a little bit easier.
Oh, yeah, really?
It was Digital Eclipse. It was Digital Eclipse. So you could lower the difficulty a little bit, and you could also take away the screen tearing stuff that happened with the sprites.
Yeah.
So yeah,
nice.
it was awesome. She and I play. I mean, she's 5. She's still learning how to play video games. But we played through the entire game from start to finish in an evening, and it was a lot of fun. Me and her,
nice.
and I would say I probably took care of like 75% of the baddies. But like she learned how to like do the jump attack and stuff, and so anyway, it was fun. Yeah, it was lots of fun.
Good. You had father-daughter bonding time over Ninja Turtles.
Over
That's
Ninja
cool.
Turtles.
Over a game that you played when you were a little kid.
Absolutely. Yeah, she loves Michelangelo, and I'm a Raphael guy myself.
Nice. I always liked Donatello.
So what do you think? Are you going to get this? Are you going to get the Virtua Fighter 2 vinyl?
No, I don't think I am, even though I do like vinyl.
I think it looks beautiful, and I bet
it does look really good.
Yeah,
but I just like Virtua Fighter isn't like one of my favorite games. Like I have enjoyed playing it online with people. That's been fun. And really, it's the first time I've ever competitively played a Virtua Fighter with anyone. Like I didn't grow up playing Virtua Fighter or knowing anyone who did.
I got
so
you.
like. I guess I've liked it a little more now that I've gotten to actually play against other people with it. But yeah, it's not like like my favorite game. So and the soundtrack, I guess, never really left much of an impression with me. Like it's cool, and like when I hear it, I know like that's Virtua Fighter. Like I recognize it, but I don't feel like a huge need to own it on vinyl. But I mean, I'm sure people who are like super nostalgic for it would love to have this. So like you said, like I don't blame anyone for wanting to get it. And I think this is different than chip tunes for like an NES game or something, because I mean, even if it is using like the Saturn's sound chip to synthesize the music, like it's still a more complicated sound chip. So you're going to get a little more out of hearing it from. I mean, you're not going to get more than you would get from hearing it from a Saturn, obviously. But it still is a greater depth of sound coming out of that vinyl than you would get from playing like the NES soundtrack to Ninja Turtles or something.
Sure.
So I think there's still some kind of reward there to listening to it.
Yeah. I mean,
there's still like a value
thing to collect.
Yeah.
Just look at the discs.
I mean, it's got this really nice centerfold artwork, gatefold artwork rather, which is new, I believe. It's original to this release, and this whole thing's officially licensed by Sega too, so that's always kind of cool. It's not just some like bootleg thing. So yeah, I mean, and also if anybody wants to get this and they're in a different country, it's being sold through different venues. If you're in Europe, you can get it from Black Screen Records for €48. And if you're in Australia, Pixel Crib is selling it for about $90 Australian dollars. And if you're in Japan, it's being sold from Disc Union for 8,200 yen. So that's cool. They have these different distributors that are like ready to go, because I think the last time I reported on a vinyl release from these guys was when they put out the first Virtua Fighter soundtrack. And I think at that time they were only selling it from like their website or like Mondo Records for North America, which they're doing that again with this one. But they didn't have like other countries set up yet, and those like came a little later. So that's cool. They've got their ducks in a row now, and it's just like wherever you are, you'll probably be able to find a distributor to get it from.
Sure. So question, cool. if they were ever to release a Fighting Vipers vinyl, would you feel obligated to get it? Yeah.
Not obligated. I'd be excited. I absolutely would get that 100%.
Oh, but
that's the thing. Like, I love
You'd lose your credibility, your Fighting Vipers credit. If you do, yeah, no, I'm kidding.
Why?
Because you're like the Uber fan. You're the Uber Fighting Vipers fan.
Oh, you mean if I didn't get it?
I'm saying if you didn't get it, people would be like, you're a fake Fighting Vipers fan. No, I'm just kidding.
Well. And the other thing is, that's one of the things I love about Fighting Vipers is the soundtrack. Like
it is. It's a phenomenal soundtrack. It's
so good.
Underrated.
David Lacy.
You don't hear people talking about it. It's not like I don't ever hear people talking about it. Like
I'll talk about it every
Virtua
week on the
Fighter
show.
2 is a good soundtrack. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But I think the first Virtua Fighter is more iconic. It has some like real banger tracks. And that's just, it's subjective, right? Everybody's gonna have their own opinion. But yeah, so I feel like the original VF soundtrack is a bit stronger. But this is beautiful. Honestly, looking at this, I'm sure that anybody who's like VF2 is their favorite game are gonna want to go out and grab this. Just like I went out and grabbed Knights, because it's my favorite game of all time. You have to, right?
Man, now you got me thinking about whether they're going to do like a Fighting Vipers release next.
Should.
I'm so excited.
I mean, they should.
I wish they would.
Yeah, they should, because you're right. It's a really good soundtrack, and not one that I hear folks talking about enough. It's really, really good. We'll skip over this. It's just talking about the show that
last week's show.
Yeah. So, Cho Aniki.
Best of Saturn.
This is what did Peter call it in the Rocky Horror Picture Show of the Saturn.
You had fun with this, right?
If Rocky Horror Picture Show and the Saturn ever made a baby, it might be called Cho Aniki, Big Brother. A shmup, it features homoerotic digitized man sprites on hand-drawn pixel backgrounds. But like Rocky Horror, it never takes itself overly serious as either a sexual statement or a shmup. Passed over for a Western release, Cho tapped Japanese Saturns in early 1996. It tapped.
What a verb to use there.
What a verb to use there. The visuals are campy, the gameplay semi-hard, and the overall package is a bit sweaty.
See, Peter had way too much fun.
Peter has way too much fun with these write-ups. Cho Aniki, a male-centered surreal parody shooter. Of course, it's hashtag best of Saturn.
Yeah, between this and the handball patches for the Digital Pinball Challenge, this is just one heck of a show we've got here today.
I've never seen this screen where they're doing a human pyramid there. I can't admit to having played this game very much. Like, I've definitely played it up to this point where the mechanical boner comes out. But I mean, like that's about as far
after
as
that
you
were done. You couldn't take any more.
I thought it was kind of cool that you had this muscle dude with like
was
huge.
Was Cho Aniki's length just too much for you, Dave?
It was the girth. No, I'm just kidding.
It was too girthy of a game for you, and you had to tap out.
I was just like, I don't know, man. And it's funny because it's not just like muscle builders. It's like salary men. It's like naked salary men.
Yeah.
It is
just like schlubby looking guys.
Yeah, it is something else. Balding too,
all their new glory.
Balding salary men naked.
Yes, balding.
So, yeah,
balding indeed.
But that's Cho Aniki. I mean.
Captain Hodden, I'm trying my best here. I hope I'm doing better than earlier in the show.
It's
okay, bless you.
It is quite the game. It is the legendary game on the Saturn by NCS 1996. NCS. I'm not sure what else they did, but yeah.
NCS put out quite a few games for the Saturn, I think. Don't ask me to name
anything else that comes to mind immediately.
No, I haven't played this game at all. I'm afraid. I clearly have missed out. This is probably one of the best shmups on the Saturn, and I just have not experienced it yet.
It is one of the somethingest shmups on the Saturn.
One of the most unique, most memorable.
I would not say that it's the best or one of the best games on Saturn. I'm just looking this up real quick. NCS. What else did they do? NCS Corporation. There we go. Cho Aniki.
This is the best naked balding men game on the Saturn. Then
they did the Landgrazer games, and apparently.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, apparently
much more respectable releases.
They did Cho Aniki on the Wonder Swan. They did Cho Aniki on a few other things. There's like a few Cho Aniki games. Yeah,
they tried to make Cho Aniki a thing.
TurboGrafx, the Wii and the Wii U have a Cho Aniki game. So.
Nice.
Interesting. Yeah.
Probably only the Japanese eShop, right? It's probably hasn't come out.
I would assume. But yeah, no, Landgrazer, they are responsible for like all the Landgrazer games. Oh, and Assault Suit Lenos 2. Assault Suit Lenos 2.
Hey, there you go. That's where I recognize the name.
That's where you recognize the name.
Lenos 2.
Yeah, so there you go. That's a random one, like, right? You know, so anyway. Wii U one is the Virtual Console PC engine. Okay, he has that one.
J-Rock
Tom Fum like deliberately got that game. Like he
nice. J-Rock in chat said, "Welcome to Men on Video Games, where we take a look at video games from men's point of view." Cue It's Raining Men. I'm not singing that one, buddy. Sorry.
No.
But yeah.
No, but Pat would, so you can
Pat would. It's raining men. That's all I'm doing.
Hallelujah.
Nope, not going any further.
Frog Bull's here. Frog Bull is in the house, and we've got.
Hi, Frog Bull. You came in at a great time. Actually, I'm not sure there's any good time in this show.
Probably came in at a terrible time. He's like, "What is going on here? I was just leaving." He's like,
I'm out
of here. But
yeah, thank you, Peter, for writing that up.
If you guys haven't played Cho Aniki at least once, fire it up, and it speaks for itself. Let's just put it that way. It's probably one that if Pat was here right now, he'd be like, "I'd like to stream this, but we'd probably get demonetized." That's what he would joke.
Maybe. I mean, hey, it doesn't have any anime theme
This
songs
is true. There's no
have a fighting chance.
There's no true nudity. It's more like very much innuendo. But I mean, there is a giant mechanical boner. So I don't know. Can you say boner? I don't know.
We might have just gotten demonetized.
We might have just gotten demonetized. Who cares? We're an adult show. We're not for kids.
Yeah.
Sega Steve says Cho Aniki is an experience. Giant ball things. You guys are crazy. New SAROO firmware update brings big changes. So we got message in the middle.
To something completely different.
So now for something completely
What
different.
A transition.
What a transition. Yeah, there's never a good transition, you know. I'm whatever. Anyway,
so speaking of things that are big and huge in the Saturn community,
I'm feeling sorry
SAROO firmware
for talking about that last topic. Firmware version 0.5. That emphasizes the fact that we are still in beta with the SAROO. Like, folks, this is not a retail product. It's still version 0.5. You know, okay. Oh, no, yeah, you're right. Like, it's literally a retail product, but it is not a retail product. Yeah, it is technically. You can buy it at retail.
But really, the firmware is not ready for prime time. People just couldn't hold their water.
Like, we're doing what folks were doing for like a year and a half with Satiator, you know, in private.
Yeah.
In like the, you know, the private Discord and whatnot. So we are all the beta testers, and you know, there are a few things here. There are quite a few things here, but some of them are like, you know, much needed, and folks are really glad to have them. Namely, those are so the menu screen resolution has been changed from the native 320 by 224 to 320 by 240. So it's been made taller to accommodate 12 games or 12 listings on screen. That's had an unintended consequence for folks who game on consumer CRT sets, because I've noticed that for some folks it kind of goes off into the dead space.
Cut off.
Yeah, so like the overscan, it goes off into the overscan.
He's not accounting for the overscan.
Yeah, now I play on a professional CRT monitor, and you can like resize that stuff, so it's not a big deal. And I usually see more overscan than you normally would, because I'm using XRGB2. But yeah, that said, it's worth mentioning. Several folks have kind of complained about it. They're like, "Oh, I'm using a Sanyo, or I'm using an old Panasonic set TV or something like that," and it's just like getting cut off at the top. So anyway, but still, you know, what you do gain from that is more items on screen. Spanish language option has been added to the menu, so that's great. Español.
Muy bien.
Folks in Spanish-speaking countries are going to be happy about that. I'm sure
Feliz,
that it'll be used quite a bit. Let's see, Feliz, they will.
They would say that they're feliz about this. Sobre esto.
Let's
anyway,
see.
I've derailed you with my
that was a dad joke. You're not even a dad.
No, I'm not.
That was a Dan joke. So support for animated background.
Over here making Pat jokes, okay? Pat makes dad jokes too without being a dad.
So
try my best.
So because of some of the deficiencies of the quote unquote vanilla the vanilla firmware, or the stock firmware from TP-Unix or TP-Unix, has always been like the quickest, snappiest, and most stable version of the firmware. But it comes at a cost, because, you know, it didn't look very pretty, and it was missing some quality of life features. So now this update brings a lot of those. One of those is the support for background images, either static or animated.
Yeah, you were having a lot of fun with those this week, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I'm trying to figure, like I wanted to do a few for the article and then share them with folks so that folks can kind of like maybe don't have to like build them themselves. They can just like download one and pop it on their on their SAROO and see how it works, But essentially any GIF, animated or otherwise, under 380K. So you don't have a lot to work with there, but you can do a lot at 320 by 240. You can get it done. And then support for PCM sound playback. And I guess there's no limit to how big the audio is. So, I mean, you could have like an entire podcast episode, apparently, as long as it can fit in RAM. Yeah, no, I mean, he was bragging about that. I was talking to who is it? The
TMWX.
TMWX. Yeah, I was talking to him about like asking if there was a limit to the sound, and he said not really. Like, just don't go crazy. You're not going to want to throw like 250 megabytes or something like that. But I mean, if it's any kind of like reasonable audio file, it should play back, and you can either loop it or you can just have it play once. So like I did one theme that was like a Saturn memory manager kind of thing, and it just uses like one of the sound effects, like whoop, and it brings up the menu, and then that's it. So, or you can get creative with like the different ways that you might want to like customize your own menu, and that's an option that you can do now.
Chap3L said, actually, the maximum size of background images is 380 kilobytes, according to TZMWX.
That's what it says right here. I'm talking about audio. Okay. There's no limit to the audio. Or at least that's what he said. Theoretically, I'm sure there is a limit because, eventually, like if it's way big, you're not going to be able to load that in RAM. But I mean, there's no hard cap that is going to affect anybody. But yeah, in terms of the image, it has to be 380K or less. So the PCM audio has to be done using like a command prompt with FFmpeg. Which folks either may or may not be familiar with, but it's pretty simple. And there's instructions in the README. The category classification has been added, allowing for sorting up to 12 folders, so you can have like tools, software, whatnot. That's nice. Or US games, Japanese
good quality
games.
Of life.
Good thing. I mean, it's like you would hope that every ODE or flash cart would have that. So it's nice that it has it now, because it didn't before. It was very bare bones. And they said that, they've really been focusing mostly on commercial game compatibility. Now they're starting to work, now that they've reached a reported like 95% compatibility, which I'm not exactly sure where they're getting that number from.
It does seem kind of like it's been pulled out of nowhere. Also, I think it's only referencing the US library. I'm not sure if they've really tested too much of like the European exclusive library, or certainly not the Japanese library. Right. So it's 95%. Asterisk.
I mean, I put it there in parentheses, but it's reported. That's what they've been focusing on for the most part up till now, and like receiving, I don't know, complaints or feedback from folks, and then addressing each game kind of like, Trekkie's described it as kind of like putting a Band-Aid on the problem instead of fixing the underlying issue, which is like the core emulation of the CD subsystem, that's what really needs to be improved at its core. But instead of doing that, they're just kind of like putting a Band-Aid on each game to make sure that it works.
It's like recognizing what game you're trying to load, and then it's applying some kind of like specific patch or something to like make that game load, instead of just like looking at how to emulate the CD block more accurately for everything. And so that means that the problem for that, for homebrew developers, is that, TP Unix isn't necessarily going to be aware of a particular homebrew game that has been made or is being worked on. And so when people with SAROOs go to load up like the latest homebrew competition entries, and then half or more of them don't work, it's like they get angry at the homebrew developers potentially. Why your game doesn't work? Like, why don't you make it better? And it's like, no, it's just this. Maybe the SAROO is not emulating the Saturn accurately. It's Trekkie's even went as far to say that this is practically like a separate system. separate piece of technology, a separate a platform to develop for.
It is. Yeah, it is. I mean,
just because it's its own beast.
Let's talk about that more at the end when we discuss all the changes. But
all right, put a
pin in that because I definitely want to talk about that more. I just want to get through all of these features. So game category sorting by folders, alphabetical sorting has been added. One of the main reasons I think folks have kind of opted for third-party forked firmwares is that they had that quality of life, and that's a very basic thing. Alphabetical sorting, where you don't have to where you don't have to bend over backwards to do it yourself, like on the PC side, So, I mean, the fact that it has that now is great. This is still like the snappiest firmware. So those other firmwares that like Martin's that could do it were a little bit slower, and I would say that was the trade-off. You had this nicer looking menu and it was, it did alphabetical sorting, but it came at a cost of, maybe lagging a little bit in terms of like refreshing menus, whereas this has always been a bit snappier, and now that it has alphabetical sorting, which we understood it was processor intensive is what they said, but essentially it's not that processor intensive for alpha like Roman letters. It's really it comes down to it's processor intensive for kanji characters because there's so many. And that's
Chinese.
Chinese. I mean, it's a Chinese product, right? So I mean, Chinese developed product, so I can understand why that's where they're thinking. But yeah, they added that support. I believe it does sort Chinese characters by the number of strokes. I don't know how helpful that is to Chinese speaking.
Probably is very helpful.
Maybe it's very helpful. Yeah. So anyway, it's there. In-game soft reset, they've found like a workaround. I would say it's kind of a workaround. What you do is start ABC, and it takes you back to the CD player. Then when you're in the CD player, you press start instead of, pressing like A to reboot the game, You go back to the CD player and whatever game you were playing would be potentially like booted, virtually booted, right? But if you press start, it will bring you back to the SAROO menu. So it's basically, it's kind of like a soft reset, but it's not immediate. It's not immediate like you would have with most ODEs or flash cards. It's like a two-step process, but it works. Let's see. It supports booting from CD-ROM or alternate ODEs. That was mentioned in the notes, though. I think that was something that it already had. You can back out to CD. You can boot a burned disk the way you would with like a pseudo cart with the SAROO, and then you can also hand it off to another ODE like the Firmware or the Satiator by just clicking CD player, and then the other whatever else you have installed will take over from there. SAROO can be used as a backup memory cart when booting from CD or an alternate ODE. This I have not tried, but this was reported by T. Punix's colleague on Twitter, and so I need to look into that because I have not tried that. I did actually boot up, what was it? Oh, I will say this. On the SAROO, I booted up, what is it called? Street Fighter 03, right? And it recognized the 4 meg expansion and it booted up the game just fine, right?
Nice.
Then I tried booting up the same game, Street Fighter 03, on the Satiator that I also had installed in my Saturn. It does not recognize the SAROO as a 4 meg RAM cart the way that it would an action replay or a pseudo cart, right? The game won't boot, and it does not recognize the SAROO cart as a. So at least that I can say it doesn't recognize it as a RAM cart. But this is saying that it can be used as a backup memory cart. So maybe I'll try that next. I'll try booting up like Panzer Dragoon Saga or something like that and see if the backup memory cart option is available. So that'll be interesting. Heart of Darkness proto build is running on SAROO on real hardware with the extended RAM support. So there was a proto build of Heart of Darkness that was not optimized and
never officially released.
Never officially released. It was shown at the Tokyo Toy Show, and it required like, the RAM cart is what, like 4 megabytes, I think this required 16 megabytes of RAM in order to function so definitely needed to be optimized further in order for a official release. But then by the time it was coming to the end of development, the Saturn was already not doing well, so they just decided not to release it. But this was shown at the 96 Tokyo Toy Show. It's now playable. You can get it at Hidden Palace. There's a link here to go over to Hidden Palace and download that. So you can play Heart of Darkness on the Saturn with that extended RAM support. And that was something that they were teasing all the way back with the Waska cart. That was another cart that could technically do it. Although with that, it was like you had the game burned to a CD-ROM, and the Waska cart was literally just providing that extended RAM.
The RAM. There's no other functionality.
With this, it's doing everything. So there you go. He's given us TZMWX gave us some instructions about.
Double Dime asked if it's the whole game.
Is it the whole game?
The whole game in there.
I don't know that. Build. Let me just see here. Is it the whole game? It is. And look, there's our friend Murder of Crows. I don't actually know.
Has anyone played through Heart of Darkness on this map?
I have played it.
Who wants to be the first?
I have not played through it, though.
Have you played through it?
I've played through Heart of Darkness on the PlayStation, and I definitely, when this got released to the public, I definitely was on top of it and testing it out.
Yeah.
But I haven't played through the whole thing to know whether it's just I think it was just a prototype demo. I don't think that it was the whole game. But anyway, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I apologize for not knowing. Instructions if you want to customize your own backgrounds and music and stuff like that. Get on into our SHIRO forum. Here in our SHIRO Discord, we have a SAROO forum. In fact, we have several like discussion forums that are on like specific topics like Firmware or SAROO. And there's a guy, Chapel, who's also here in the YouTube chat, who knows a ton about this just from trial and error and stuff like that. And so I'm sure they could help you if you have any questions about doing this kind of stuff, setting up, somebody in that chat will be available to help you if you have any questions about doing your own background menus and stuff like that. But it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. And I included some for folks to download: the Saturn Starfield, the Memory Manager-esque one, and then some Junker HQ one, Sega CD Snatcher and Saturn Snatcher. And I'll do some more in the future and make those available for folks. I think they said something about starting a GitHub repository to house all that stuff. But yeah. Onto the topic that you were mentioning with Trekkies and stuff. He did mention an issue that I think is important to address, and that is a concern among the homebrew developers that they're now kind of faced with this issue of like, do they continue to develop for the Saturn as their target, or do they switch gears and develop for SAROO? Because it's not mutually exclusive. The SAROO behaves so differently, in terms of like it completely ignores, whereas other ODEs like the Satiator or the Fenrir or the Mode or the
Phoebe and the Ray.
All those do is stand in the middle and emulate the CD drive itself, right? They emulate that streaming of data and sending it over to the CD block, which consists
including
of like,
the load times, essentially.
Well, they're beholden to stock load times because they're just passing the data. They're just, like I said, pretending to be the CD-ROM drive and sending that data over to the SH1 and the CD subsystem, right? The RAM and everything like that. So the Saturn is still processing all of that. It thinks there's a CD-ROM drive installed. It doesn't know any different. It just, it's just those devices take over right away, and they fool your Saturn into thinking that, yes, there is a CD-ROM drive and this is what it is. And it's feeding
it's all data coming off of a disk. Enough an SD card.
Absolutely. So from a development standpoint, there's really nothing, as long as they follow spec, and they do everything according to, quality control, because Sega had, they had like a specification, as long as your software fell in within that specification, it was fine, right? What the SAROO does is it emulates the entire CD subsystem. So it emulates the drive, the SH1 processor, and the RAM, and then other bus chips or whatever. The entire thing. It completely ignores the Saturn CD subsystem, and it actually patches every game on the fly, basically telling them to make all of their CD-ROM calls to the cart port instead. Like it redirects all their CD-ROM calls that they would normally call to the CD-ROM to the cart port. Folks who don't know that much about technical stuff and Saturn development make a layman's argument. Well, isn't it just the same if they just continue to program for the Saturn, the SAROO will just do what it does like it does with commercial games? No, that's not the case. In fact, most commercial games, like I said, have had to be band-aided in order to work, right? Like the underlying emulation of the CD subsystem has not been addressed. Instead, they've put patches and band-aids on every game to make them work, right? But the concern, I guess, yes. So you could go and piecemeal fix every piece of homebrew, right? But that's going to take time. And there's also going to be this negative perception. If the larger segment of the market of the now that there's like this democratized, very cheap flash cart that's like a pirater's dream, right? Everybody's going to go out and buy these carts, right? And they're just going to be like, well, why doesn't homebrew work? It's the homebrew devs' fault. They should make it work, right? Well, it's not their responsibility to they shouldn't have to take responsibility for corners cut, is what Trekkies was saying. You know, it's not their fault that their software doesn't work on SAROO, and that the creator of SAROO will be, you know, essentially beholden to fix those issues just like they would fix the issues for commercial games. But what they're worried about in the meantime is a negative perception of the homebrew. You know, that's the issue. I'm not trying to like stir the pot or throw shade at SAROO. I'm just trying to have this conversation about something that is a very real issue for the homebrew devs.
And highlight these concerns that
these concerns
have right now.
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, they've been talking about it on Sega Extreme, and they've been kind of like wondering what to do. Because the same kind of thing happened with the mode back in the early days. Like mode kind of, it's different. It's still an ODE, but they kind of cut some corners and they added some of their own tweaks and quality of life improvements that kind of operated outside of spec, I guess you could say. Like they were just like, oh, well, we're going to use this memory, we're going to use this area of memory that's apparently not being used, and we're going to inject our own code to do like soft reset and do faster loading and stuff like it, right? Then it turns out that homebrew developers want to use that area of memory to create games that push Saturn beyond what was allowed back in the day. If you were to try to like submit a game for approval, you know, to be greenlit, you'd have had to operate within a certain specification, and you'd have done that just to ensure that there wouldn't be any compatibility issues across hardware revisions. But it's like a lot of the, you know, pushing those boundaries that homebrew developers are attempting nowadays with the Saturn and trying to like push it as far as they possibly can go. They're not, you know, they're not beholden to Sega. They don't have to report to Sega and be like, can we get a green light on this? They're just like, this is there, this RAM is there, or this resource is here. I'm going to tap that resource and try to make a better game, right? So that's where SAROO becomes an issue, because I just, you know, it's a foregone conclusion that this is going to happen. There are going to be titles like this that are not going to work, and your average Joe who just buys a SAROO and expects it to work for everything is going to be confused and perhaps a bit frustrated when it doesn't just automatically work with everything they throw at it. Maybe the latest patch, you know, that team bulk/team works on may not work day one on SAROO. And so whose job is that going to be? Is it going to be bulk/team's job to make it work on the SAROO? Or will it be
like a SAROO specific patch or something?
Right. Is that going to be on you guys, or is that going to be on TPUnix? And if it is on TPUnix, how long will it take until it's addressed? And how long will you guys have to endure flaming on social media because
will he even care to fix it? You know, he might be like, because I mean, right now he's been saying, people have asked him like, okay, well, what about homebrew stuff? And he's like, well, I'm just focusing on commercial games. Like he doesn't even care. Right. You know, that's not important to him. And I mean, that's fair enough. He, you know, he can place importance on whatever he wants. You know, it's his own effort, and no one's paying him to do anything. So but it still could create a lot of grief for people, you know. Now, I mean, in chat, Chap3L said that they were able to play some of the games that were in the or some of the examples from Joe Engine easily enough. You know, he said, okay, you just have to convert them to a proper bin-queue image.
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, is that always going to work?
I don't know if that's a silver bullet that's going to work for every game. I will say that, I mean, it comes down to this. That anecdote is being applied. It's this theory. Basically, they're following the thought process is, well, it works for commercial games, right? Again, let me remind you, commercial games were programmed within a specification that Sega approved of, right? You couldn't go outside certain specifications, right? We know from history, right? Anybody who's watched the Naughty Dog documentary,
right, with Crash Bandicoot,
exactly. They talk about how, you know, Sony also had very strict, very strict regulations, you know, on what they would release, right? And I mean, they never would have released Crash if they had, you know, had any say about that. But I mean, of course, those guys were savvy and they kind of like went under the radar, and they were programming like homebrew devs program, just not giving two halves of an F, you know, like they were literally just like, we don't care about rules. We want to make the best game that we possibly can. We want to push this hardware farther than anybody ever thought possible, right? I mean, it's kind of like the stuff that Frog Bowl does, and it's lucky that he doesn't have to answer to Sega, right? He can just do whatever the hell he wants. But the point is that stuff would not get greenlit because it would because there would be concerns over, would it work across all of the Saturn hardware revisions, of which there are many, you know? So they had to kind of keep things locked down to like this sandbox where it was like, okay, this will work, you know? Anyway, homebrew devs are not concerned about these days. I mean, there is, to some degree, a certain homebrew that gets released. I hear folks trying to test it on different hardware revisions and make sure it kind of like works for everybody. But there will be a lot of projects, both patches and where you guys are, you know, inserting text where it's not supposed to be, or using the hardware to add support for different peripherals and stuff. And there are edge cases where I know this is going to end up being an issue. And I'm just hoping that, because SAROO is just it's not a, it's not an enthusiast's device. It is a cheap, and by cheap, I mean inexpensive, you know, and as
sort of mass market.
It is a mass market. It is an inexpensive pirater's dream. I mean, you just, it's affordable. You can toss the commercial library on it and you can play Saturn games for cheap that you didn't buy. You know what I mean? Like that. And I mean, I think that the market for that is not your enthusiast market. I mean, all your enthusiasts will grab one anyway, because we're all nerds, right? We want to mess around with this technology, but it's like all of the folks that are really could care less about educating themselves on all of the stuff that goes on behind the curtain, why it works. They don't care why it works. They're like, it's magic, you know? And so I guess the worry that Trekkies is saying is this, like, you know, we don't want to get flack from the community when our shit does not work on this cart. Now I do want to, you know, I want to acknowledge the comments that Chapel is making in the chat, that if something like that happens, he is going to work with TZMWX to resolve it. And I mean, that's commitment right there, and I appreciate that. I think that's honorable, and that's awesome that there is a community starting to grow around this device that's hopefully going to help provide support like this, you know, because again, it's weird. It's one of those weird things where it's like with Fenrir you have SED, right, and with Satiator you have abrasive. Yeah, and I mean, Terra of Onion, you have, with the mode, you have Terra Onion, and that's a whole nother ball of wax. But anyway, the point is, you've got
GDMU with, you know, Ray and Phoebe.
Yeah, you've got folks who you can go to, and they are like responsible. But with SAROO, it's decentralized. You know, it's almost like anonymous. You know, it's like, who do you hold accountable? You know, so I mean, it's open source, and so I guess it's really comes down to like, a community growing and building up around this device to try to help provide support and fix things as they need to be fixed. And I really am hoping that underlying emulation gets improved as well. Like maybe right now they're just trying to make sure, to be fair and to defend TP Unix a little bit. I realized that he maybe wasn't ready to go to market with it, but because it was open source and it was available, his hand was forced, right? And so many vendors went to market with this, and now he's scrambling to try to support it, right? Which is again an honorable thing to do. And so we are getting support, but the thing is, all the folks out there that are just grabbing one and buying one, they are not thinking about it like that. They're not thinking about it as it's in beta.
And Moose Track in chat said more people playing Saturn is good. And at the end of the day, that's true.
Absolutely. Like this is going to make playing Saturn. I mean, our argument, we always make this argument that, Saturn's still approachable. You can grab a broken Saturn and get a Fenrir or something. I mean, this is one more argument for folks not being able to make excuses anymore in terms of, grabbing a Saturn and playing it, And there are still plenty of Saturns out there. Many of them have issues. Remember, many of them need new power supplies or they need new CD-ROM drives. But here you go. I mean, there are cheap power supplies available, and there are now so many different boot options.
Chapel said, I can say the SAROO is getting popular in Brazil because it's way cheaper comparing to other ODEs.
Oh, yeah.
Like SAROO is a quarter of the price of Fenrir. Is it really a quarter of the price of Fenrir? Because Fenrir is like $140.
Yes.
And so
Fenrir is like $140.
Half of that would be $35.
Well, say what now?
I don't think, or a quarter the price of $140 Fenrir
price, but it's easily half. It's easily 35. Half the price. Yeah. So
I was going to say, I thought SAROOs were usually like 60, 70, $80.
The ones
it's a lot cheaper than a Fenrir.
Shipping and taxes, well, I'm always amazed at how cheaply they're able to like ship these things from China. Like I can't even imagine, and get it to you fast too. Like we didn't pay that much for shipping, and we got our SAROO like it was Amazon, and it was AliExpress. So I don't know. Anyway, they must just be doing a ton of volume to the States.
Yeah, it's probably because China just exports all over the world so much that shipping from China for anything is probably cheaper than shipping from most other countries.
But, so price is like that elephant in the room that you can't really not talk about. Like we live in the West, we live in America. It's a country where I think a lot of folks just kind of take price for granted. And that's a very privileged position to be in. There are a lot of folks all over the world who are like really have to take the cost of things into consideration, and like dropping over $100 on something is just maybe not doable, at least when there's so many other like essentials that need to be covered,
right.
And I mean, so like the fact that you've got this essentially like flash cart that's somewhere around between $50 to $60 at the low end is that's huge, and that's definitely going to make it approachable for more folks. I still say the like best in class Satiator for my money is best in class. Fenrir for a CD-ROM replacement is probably best in its class. I mean, and Fenrir has Wi-Fi, so I mean, again,
it's in beta.
It's in beta, but I mean, it will happen eventually. Like I believe that Fenrir owners are going to be laughing their way to the bank later on when they are booting Saturn games off their PC, off of their network drive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they've got an SMB or something like that, and they're booting Saturn games off Wi-Fi. Then I think they're going to be laughing, and developers too. That's just a beautiful scenario, being able to just push code to the machine over Wi-Fi quickly like that, and debug like that. I mean, I think is awesome. Where SAROO is concerned, I mean, the cart has a USB port on it. It's just not being used right now. It's not populated. There's no USB connector, but the footprint is there. It exists, and from what I understand, they would have to use like the ST Micro tool to like reflash reflash like the ST microchip in order to allow for USB debugging, and also allow for like, you know, serial data over USB. You know, we're still in beta, folks. Like, we're still in beta for what is it? Commercial compatibility. So it's very early days with
still
with
less
SAROO.
than version 1.0.
It's just that SAROO is like going crazy. Like the craze over it is, it's like a real, like, how do I don't remember,
like a gold rush.
I don't remember
Saturn.
I don't remember the same kind of
ODEs.
excitement for satiator outside of enthusiasts, you know, because it was like, it was only going to be the enthusiasts that were willing to drop close to $250 on that thing when it came out. Or even the Firmware, you know, with the Firmware, when it first launched, it was dicey in terms of compatibility, and it was a little, you know, like, it had growing pains, you know, but they got through all of that, and the Firmware now is just a really, really solid device, you know. But all of these devices have had their own growing pains. It's just SAROO is the only one that kind of like just slipped and made it out to the market before it was really ready for prime time, because it's just kind of like, okay, folks, we're all in this together. It's a public beta. It's like a literally public, massively public beta. And that's the kind of, I think that's just the kind of expectation and attitude folks should have towards it en masse, you know, is that this is still in beta. Changes, you know, fixes are going to come slow, and you just got to be patient. But when we get a big update like this, it's exciting, you know, because
it is a big update.
Yeah. I guess the Mister's kind of the same way, right? Because that's open source, and that is kind of like, you know, anybody can just pile on as early as they want to and kind of bear with it as they get it there, you know. But yeah, the price is what makes SAROO just really compelling.
The Mister's a little more expensive, although there is that version that's going to be cheaper, right? The $100 or something.
Yeah. Is that the Mars Project Mars?
No, that's something different. There's actually,
what are you talking about?
There's like I don't know if it's like a clone of it or what, but there's like a version of the Mister that's being worked on. It's not out yet. That's going to cost only like $100, which is quite a bit less than how much the Mister has cost up until now. Yeah. So that might make the Mister for all the cores, not just the Saturn core, more accessible for people. I think you weren't on the show that week we were talking about it. Maybe it was last week. Pat and I were talking about it.
Maybe
a little bit.
Yeah.
And or the week before or something like that. It was recently.
I admit I'm not like super dialed in when
it comes to Mister board. Aniki Black Sheep said a clone board. Yeah. So somebody's cloned the Mister and they
cloned the DE10 Nano. Oh, okay.
Made by Taki Udon. Yes, that's right.
That's a big deal. Yeah, that is a big deal.
What about the mode? It actually. Yeah. What about the mode?
Oh, I don't know. What's the question? What about the mode? Is it good? Is it bad? Mike Racy is asking me what about the mode, but what are you asking? What about the mode? I will say this. Somebody said, you know, who was it? Voltar singing the praises of SAROO. I am not going to be a shill for the SAROO. I have it. Okay. I quite like it, but I have all the ODEs except for Phoebe and Rhea. Okay, so I didn't get on that early, you know, with the Phoebe and Rhea. I couldn't. I tried, you know, but I couldn't.
It's impossible to get those.
Yeah, I know. No, I had an opportunity. Kay offered to sell me one, and at that point, I didn't have the money. I was like, sorry, I don't have the $300 right now, or whatever it was at the time. So
did it cost $300 for a Phoebe?
I don't know. When it first came out, it was a considerable purchase. I don't remember how much it was, but it was serious money.
I didn't realize that.
Anyway, the point is, I've got a Firmware Duo. I've got a satiator. I've got the mode, and I've played it in my Saturn and everything. I have it in my Dreamcast right now, but I have used it on the Saturn. And I've got the SAROO. So I've tried them all. I'm not just speaking out of my ass when I say that. Like, I think that they all have strengths and weaknesses.
Sure.
But the thing for me is, I just don't want to see literally everybody and their mother pick up a SAROO, and then that cause the homebrew development community trouble in terms of like them having to like be caught in kind of like a catch-22 where they're trying to figure out like, well, do we just focus exclusively on supporting the SAROO from the ground, from the get-go, or do we really just keep our eyes on the prize, developing for Saturn, and let those issues be SAROO's problem to figure out?
Yeah, and I would say probably they should just develop, and several people in chat have been saying this too, just develop for the base Saturn hardware, because I mean there are so many ODE options that you can't account for all of them and make your game 10 different ways. It's up to the ODEs to be emulating the CD-ROM, the CD block of the Saturn accurately, so that those games are running the same. No matter how you're trying to play them. Like the biggest issue, I guess, would be like a homebrew developer, like making sure that this runs on an emulator. But I mean, even with emulators, it's the emulator developer's responsibility to make it emulate a Saturn correctly. So all a homebrew developer can do is make sure that their game runs on a Saturn, as if you had put a legit disk into the drive, and then let everything else just work itself out. And if people complain, you just have to tell them, hey, it's your device you're using's fault. Like I can't account for everything.
Exactly. And I don't even think that I don't even really think that the audience that's getting SAROO predominantly will be necessarily interested in homebrew per se. Like I don't think that it's
unfortunately it'd be nice if we could get
not a hardcore
owners.
Yeah, it's not a really hardcore clientele. It's more, it's like I say, it's a democratized kind of thing, and it's like it's a lot of the casual fans that are going to be just looking to play the commercial library. They may really want to play some Japanese translations, and that's where I see it's like, I've seen teams like yours catch flack for, I don't know, your decisions regarding certain translations, or which way you go.
Well,
there's always
an issue with the Fenrir with bulk slash where we changed the regions in the header to just added all the regions to the header file of bulk slash. So it was like, okay, cool, this will play on everybody's Saturn. This will be an improvement. And that ended up being a problem for the Fenrir because it reads the product codes, and the first country code that it sees, it boots that Saturn's BIOS up.
Right.
And it detected, I don't know, the US code first or something like that. So it put up the US BIOS, which is incompatible with I guess it's incompatible with the Japanese game. And so when it went to actually try to play bulk slash, it couldn't do it with the US BIOS. So we had to revert it back to, that's why we put out a couple days later, the version 1.001 of bulk slash was just to revert the header file back to Japanese. So it's okay, now you need a way to get around a region lock, which most people who are playing a translated game are probably doing anyway. So it wasn't that big of a deal to have done it in the first place, I guess, but you live and learn. You don't think about those things, beforehand. But we took some flack for that. What's that?
Well, I think it's probably worth mentioning that while compatibility has improved for SAROO, according to the report on the update, and the release notes, I do notice that there's still the catch, the audio catch, on games like Nights into Dreams, for example, or Daytona USA. Now I realize this is probably trivial. It's not a big deal. It doesn't affect the ultimate playability of the game. But when you boot up the game and it gives you the Sonic Team logo, you get into that little shrill Knights, I don't know, it's strings or whatever, and it catches it kind of glitches out there for a second. The same thing happens with Daytona USA, and it's probably something down to the audio playback, which is not uncommon, when it comes to OD. Even I think Satiator had some audio issues early on, or Fenrir had some. So that's going to be something that folks will probably, rag.
He's going to need to work on that.
It's going to be, it'll need to be worked out. But maybe, I guess, again, their whole outlook, like you said, is just cart before the horse. Let's just focus on making the games playable, and then we'll kind of make refinements and tweaks beyond that. So
should we leave the SAROO stuff there?
We should. We should. I think we've covered it as much as we need to. And if folks have any questions, like I said, again, join our Discord and join the SAROO discussion. Chapel here, who I want to shout again, seems to be quite an expert based on, just having been you've had one for a while and you've messed around with it, and you're also talking with TZMWX on the daily. So, there are knowledgeable folks who can kind of help you along your journey if you get a SAROO and you're interested, you have questions. And then you have to say SAROO with a wolf howl. SAROO, but I'm not going to say that. No. Wah, wah.
Please. Dad joke over here.
Dad joke. Sorry.
Only one with it.
No, but and in terms of buying one, I would say there's something big coming. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say what it is. I don't know if I don't know if I'm at liberty to say what it is. All I can do is tease that there's something coming that if you are thinking about getting a SAROO and you haven't bought one yet and you're not in a hurry, just wait a little bit. Just wait a little bit is all I can say, okay?
Nice.
Because there's something.
Are we going to report on it when it happens?
Oh, we are going to report on. We are definitely going to report on it. I will say it's not SHIRO. Okay, it's not a SHIRO SAROO car. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. But there is something. There is something coming. It's going to be ready really soon. It's something that I'm interested in sharing with you guys, and it's SAROO related. So nice. there will be a quote unquote vetted, reputable cart on the market soon that I think will be maybe more expensive than the cheapest option out there, but perhaps not the most expensive option out there. And it will be it'll be made by a company based in the US. I think they'll still be using a factory in Taiwan, but I'm it's all going to go through like their quality control. So anyway,
cool.
Yeah. So that's it for SAROO. We should probably read off. You want to go Patreon supporters? Yeah. Thank you to everyone who helps support this show. All of the files and stuff like that we have to put up on the website. Dan, all of his articles, he posts video files and stuff like that. There's a lot of files.
Blame me.
I'm gonna throw you under the bus. No, it's like we have a lot of files that have to be hosted. We have the podcasts that have to be hosted. We've got operating expenses, but all that is taken care of, and we don't even have to worry about it because of you guys. And for those folks who are like super extreme supporters, you support us at the $10 and up. We love to read your names on the show, just to honor you guys and say thanks for making the magic happen. I mean, like these modems that I just picked up with Pat, we just saw them and I was like, get them right now, and we will just worry about it later, but I mean, they were a decent price, right? But it's like, we can do that without even thinking twice because of you guys. You provide funds to kind of make the magic happen. And so we're really honored and blessed to have such great supporters, and those folks,
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, who support us at the $10 and up level are A Murder of Crows, Blue Moon 95, Casual Seth, Ceruleon, Chris Piper, Chris 1997 XX, Daniel Fredrickson, David Zaney, Derek Pascarella, A-Team, Emerald Nova, Fat Drunk Friend Otaku, Gem Clash or Rank, Ian Keg, Jay Hersey, Johannes Fetz, Lion Wing Publishing, Memphis, Normal Guy, Newt Rages, Robert Ramsey, Rowan Dinkt, Sega Steve, Stone Man, The Sega Guys, Wafflekins, and Young Money Swee. Pat is grounded.
Thank you, everybody.
I will tell Pat he's grounded. We love you guys. And I mean, everybody, all you guys who support us at like the $3 and $5 level or $1, we really appreciate you guys too. Your contribution definitely helps. We're going to be going to PRGE. Pat's going to Pat's going to Gamescom in Germany. I mean, and that's a considerable expense too. So, but cool. We're going to be able to rep SHIRO and the Saturn in Germany. Hopefully, he'll run into Xenos Interactive. Of course, he's going to run into Memphis and Audi Sorley and John Linneman as well. And they might even do like a panel, from what I understand, talking about Saturn. So that's awesome that we're, and Pat can use some of his German. That'll be great.
Show up his skills.
But yeah, I mean, all that stuff costs money, and it's nice to not have to like dig into our personal savings or anything to make it happen. So you guys are the ones making it happen, and we appreciate you. Thank you very much. And thank you all for being a part of our community. The community is what SHIRO is all about. That's our strength. I always say all the cool stuff we individually do is great, but really it's all about the army of Saturn lovers, Saturn gamers that we all share our love for this console, and we have a lot of fun. We get up to some trouble, but we have a lot of fun with our online tournaments and our community challenges and our streams.
Just talking about the Saturn.
Yeah. Shadow Mask does like this awesome VHS stream, which I needed to ask him if he was planning on doing that tonight. He may have already.
He is. It's Matrix 2.
The Matrix 2 Reloaded, right? Is that right?
Yeah, Reloaded.
Yeah, Reloaded. So that's cool. That's going on. Hopefully he will drop a link since he's a mod here. He can do that. Yeah. So I mean, what else? Did I miss anything else that we do? We do the online. We do the community challenge. There's discussions going on every day. So if you guys,
we've got a Facebook page, we've got a Twitter account you can follow.
Yep. There's a translation discussion for folks who are like interested in getting into translations. Maybe you want to dip your toe in. Start from zero and go to hero, right? Because that's where everybody did. Dan, you got your start doing translations. Derek Pascarella.
After I joined SHIRO.
Derek Pascarella, like who is renowned now for Dreamcast and Saturn stuff, was like I say, just bumming around our Discord community and was like, I'm gonna do this, So I mean, if you want to bring, maybe there's a Japanese game that's locked to Japan, and you want to make it accessible to more people. There are folks here that can kind of help you start you down that path. I think Malenko is one of the. He's incredibly prolific and has a lot of knowledge. And these folks have gained knowledge just by doing, so it's like they're here to pass it on to you. So if you're interested, join the SHIRO Discord. It's in the description. We would love to have you as a member. And I think that's it. I mean, this has been Saturn Dave
and Danthrax
reminding you. I'll let you say it.
Okay, you must play Sega
Saturn. All right, we'll see you later.
Bye.
SEGA Saturn シロ